Okay, so we're going to talk about absolute value. That's our title for today. And this is page number 10 in our interactive notebook. Okay, so the absolute value of an integer is its distance from 0. So when you're talking about absolute value, all you're doing is counting how many spaces is it away from 0. The notation, line, x, line, those lines mean absolute value, and the x is an unknown value or an unknown integer. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to put absolute value in the middle. That's what we're talking about. And what is the definition of absolute value? Well, the definition of absolute value is a number's distance from 0 on a number line. So the characteristics, they are always written like this, with these two lines that are slightly bigger than what's inside. This is our symbol for absolute value. Another characteristic, a very big characteristic, so I'm putting a star right next to it, is that absolute value is never ever ever negative. And think about that. Distance can never ever be negative. If I leave my house and I travel 10 miles, I don't tell people that I went a positive 10 miles or a negative 10 miles. I just say 10 miles. That automatically assumes that it's positive. When I go from that place back to my house, I don't say that I traveled negative 10 miles. I just traveled 10 miles. Absolute value is a measure of distance, and so it is never, ever, ever negative. So some examples of absolute value. If we had the absolute value of 5, that would equal 5. The absolute value of negative 5, that would also equal 5. The absolute value of negative 17 would give us 17, because negative 17 is 17 tick marks away from 0 on a number line. Some non-examples would be negative 7. It can't be negative 7 because absolute value is never ever negative. It couldn't be negative 1/2. It also couldn't be negative x or negative anything. So we have a few things to work out. Number 1, the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. Now, this one may be a little bit tricky because the negative sign is on the outside of our absolute value lines. We cannot say that this is not negative because our negative is on the outside. So it really doesn't have anything to do with our absolute value. We would read this as the negative absolute value of 18. So if I took away that, that would be the absolute value of 18, which would be 18. But you have to bring over your negative sign because it is on the outside of your absolute value bars. The absolute value of 2 is 2. The negative absolute value of negative 7, if I'm just looking at my absolute value of negative 7, I know that that is 7. However, this subtraction sign or this negative sign has to be brought down with it because it's on the outside of your absolute value bars. Now we can solve some operations with absolute value. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5 minus the absolute value of negative 2, which is 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. The absolute value of negative 9 is 9 minus the absolute value of 5, which is 5. So that gives us 4. This one's a little bit different. We talked about this during order of operations. Sometimes when you see a number like this stacked on top of each other, it means to divide. So this is the absolute value of 15 divided by the absolute value of negative 5, which is 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Okay, last one. A bird is flying 25 feet above sea level. A turtle is swimming 12 feet below sea level. What is the distance between them? Okay, so we're looking at the absolute value, the distance. If here's sea level, okay, we've got the sea, and here is a bird. And this bird, from here to the sea, is 25 feet. Okay, a bird is flying 25 feet above sea level. That's what we've drawn. A turtle is swimming 12 feet below sea level. Okay, now I'm not an artist. I'm going to try to draw a little turtle down here. Okay, looks more like a green blob. But our turtle, from sea level to him, that is 12 feet. So I want to know what is my distance from my bird all the way down to my turtle. So I want to know what's the distance from here all the way to here. Well, I know that this is 25, and this is an additional 12 feet. So if I add those together, 25 plus 12, that would give me 37 feet.